welcome, welcome. As you can see, oopsie daisy, we have a special guest star showing up later in just a moment here. But for right now, it's Bob and Joshua here in the Cupping Lab.
Greetings, everyone.
Yeah. And as you will have seen on our opening screen there, the coffee we are going to be talking about today is Bolivia. Our Bolivia for this year, which was launched several weeks ago now.
Yep. Yeah, it's been available for a little while.
Yeah. But in case you have not tried it, I do want to make sure you get a link for it. So I'm sending that out to you right now. You'll see we have a link that goes directly to the coffee on the Dancing Goats website. And I'm going to do one little thing here before we invite our guest in. I want you to see that we do have our 10% coupon always available for you, our dear customers who watch these videos. That is for Dancing Goats coffee. Anything you order today on there, including maybe this Bolivian coffee, any brewing tools that you need, anything you get from the website will be 10% off if you use the code Watch and Learn 10. There it is on the screen. Make sure you do use that for your next order. So before we have our guest join us from Bolivia, want to talk a little bit about this coffee?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So this year's offering from Bolivia is called Finca El Mirador, the Lookout. Really good view, I imagine, from there.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the significance.
I don't know. I haven't been.
That's the significance of Mirador.
Yeah.
The producer, this is not, typically we've had the Buena Vista, as we've talked about in the past. This coffee is a single family farm from the Mamani family. It's a kind of a little something a little special. It's the process is a little different than some things that we've gotten in the past, and this is I'm hoping Daniela, who will be joining us, will have some insight to the anaerobic fermentation. I've gotten a bunch of questions about that.
You know, on that point, let's knock on the door here and see if our friend Daniela is available. As soon as she pops on the screen, we'll bring her in. This is Daniela Rodriguez with Agri Cafe in Bolivia, who is our guest today. And we'll just wait for her to pop onto the screen here as soon as she does.
Yeah, and I'll keep chatting. So yeah, typically we've bought coffee from the Buena Vista is the name of the mill. It's in the Caranavi area of Bolivia. And this coffee as well is from Caranavi and is processed through their milling facilities. So that's the story with that one. So there is a connection to Agri Cafe and Daniela Rodriguez, the Rodriguez family, who is joining us. And there she is. Daniela, can you hear us okay?
Yes. Hi, Bob. Hi, Joshua.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for phoning in today. As always, it's always a delight for me to not just talk about the producers that we have relationships with, but to try and connect producers to our customers. So this is a great opportunity to do that. So. And then the other thing that I will ask you, Daniela, is to just kind of give us an update on the current harvest in Bolivia. Oddly, we're offering this coffee while the new crop harvest is occurring. And I say oddly only because we normally would offer this coffee a little bit earlier in the season, but once again, as everyone's been firmly aware of, is with shipping being what it is, delays being what they are, we're lucky to have this coffee, period. And it's already a long road for us to receive coffee here in our roastery from Bolivia. So yeah, I'm just gonna ask you, maybe you can give us an update on how things are going there. How the harvest looks, and maybe just talk a little bit about logistics and how that's been challenging you guys.
And while you do that, I'm going to start some water for us.
It's
is it good?
Pretty much ready to go.
Well, then never mind. I'll just stand here and listen.
So the floor is yours, Daniela. Tell us how things are in Caranavi.
Thank you, Bob. So actually now I'm in Caranavi at the wet mill, Buena Vista. We are almost on the we are on the peak of the harvest. We are receiving a lot of coffee from our farms, Finca Los Rodriguez, and also of our program, Sol de la Mañana. So it's very exciting this time of the harvest. It's busy, but at the same time it's nice to see all the cherries, the color. We are doing a lot of process, naturals, washed, and also it's nice to see again the producers delivering the cherries every night at our wet mill. At the same time, after 2 years of being locked, we are finally receiving roasters here in Bolivia that they are visiting us. So it's nice to have them here back and share with them after 2 years. So it's very exciting for us to this time. And as you were saying, Bob, last year, it was, I think, in the last 12 years that I'm working in AgriCafé. It was the most challenging year for logistics. For Bolivia was hard. It's hard. We don't have a port, so there are less containers available in Bolivia. The imports in the last 2 years have decreased, so less containers. So the problem was that the drivers that took the containers to the port have been increasing their price because they were not importing a container back from the port. And a part of that, at the end of the year, that usually is our biggest shipping month, December and January, COVID was complicated here in Bolivia. It was one of the highest, was the fifth wave and one of the highest peak that we had in Bolivia. So, so everything has stopped. Not everything, but for example, the people that work with us, they were half-half in the port, in the border with Arica. What they do, and that has taken a lot of time during the logistics, was that the drivers that were taking the containers in the border, people in Chile were asking them to take a PCR test in the border. Yeah. And if they got positive, that was mostly of all the drivers, they had been stuck in the border for almost 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Yeah. And at the same time, the people from Chile that were controlling, they got COVID. So they were only operating
problem after problem. Yeah.
They were only operating a few hours. So only 100 trucks were passing to Chile per day. So it's nothing.
Only 100.
Only 100 trucks per day.
And that's 100 for everything?
An entire country.
The entire
for
country?
Everything.
So
for all
coffee.
Bolivia exports. Not only coffee, it was for all the export of Bolivia, because that's the main port that Bolivia uses, is Arica.
Yeah, so, and that's something that I just want to kind of reiterate with anyone that might be listening in is one of the biggest challenges as a country is you're a landlocked country, right? So one of two, I believe, in South America. Can somebody tell me the other fully landlocked country in South America?
It's where
a little trivia here.
And it was
Paraguay.
No. It's where Butch Cassidy and Sundance.
No, that was Bolivia. That was Bolivia. I believe it's
Uruguay.
Uruguay. Is that right, or is it Paraguay? Do you know, Daniela?
I think it's Uruguay.
Uruguay. All right. Right.
Okay.
So they're just
We-
little
we got
trivia,
it.
little trivia.
We got it. So I know that was a question when we first began a relationship with the farms and started bringing in this coffee, well, bringing in Buena Vista. That was the question everyone asked at our first cupping was, what's the thing that we notice about Bolivia as opposed to all of the other coffees we get from obviously South America, but Central America as well. And that was that it was landlocked.
Yeah. So Arica in Chile is the port, and like we said, it's always a challenge, and it's become even more and more of a challenge. Okay. So your peak harvest right now, Daniela. Have you done much cupping yet? How do you feel like the quality and quantity, I guess, is coming along compared to a normal year, if there is such a year?
Yeah, it looks okay. The harvest looks good. The maturity of the cherries looks good. I think that this year Bolivia will produce a little bit less coffee, but apart of that, the quality, weather is fine. It's normal.
Okay, good. And this is kind of a segue for me to give you an opportunity to discuss. You, Fincas Rodriguez, are going or planning on doing a private estate auction this year. Is that correct?
Correct. We are very excited about that to have our first PCA. So the last Cup of Excellence was in 2009. So it's been a long time that Bolivia didn't make something, an auction.
Yeah. Just so people are familiar, we talk Cup of Excellence, and Daniela mentioned the PCA, which stands for Private Collection Auction. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so this year, we'll basically farmers can submit their samples to be judged, and then instead of being kind of sold through traditional means, it's an online auction platform. And that's going to be occurring this year in Bolivia. Will it just be Fincas Rodriguez, or are there going to be other privately held farms that will participate in this as well?
This first time is just coffee from our farm, Lord Rodriguez collection.
Yep.
Our idea is to also launch and introduce the new varieties that we have in our farms that are new for Bolivia, that are the geishas, javas, pacamaras, Kenyan varieties, different process with the traceability of all the farm. And also we want to share with the industry, with the coffee industry, the two regions where we have our farms. That is Caranavi, the main coffee region, and the new region that is Samaipata, that we started developing coffee there 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And both are different, even though we have the same varieties, but the profile of the coffees are different. So the idea is to show the diversity of flavors that Bolivia has.
Yep. And just once again, just to interject and kind of do some further explaining to people that are listening. So Samaipata is on the other side of the mountains. You fly into Santa Cruz, as opposed to Caranavi, where you'd fly into La Paz. Head down towards the coffee farms.
Everything's down from La Paz.
Everything's down from La Paz, and in Samaipata you'd go to Santa Cruz and then go up to the higher elevations and it's very beautiful. I've had the opportunity to go over there with your brother, Pedro Pablo, and visit some farms over there and some of the milling facilities. However, all the coffee would then be dry milled. Is this correct? Does all the coffee get dry milled in La Paz at your dry milling facility there?
Yes, correct. All our coffee is gonna be consolidated in our dry mill called La Luna, that is at 3,600 meters. And from there, I think it's one of the highest one.
You
But
have
it's
the
very
highest dry mill in the world. I'm
I'm
convinced.
dizzy just looking at you in the background, knowing how, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so La Luna is the name of the dry mill, which is in La Paz and where most of
Paz.
the exportation happens. So,
Maybe we should crack
oh yeah,
these,
we
yeah.
got. So we're gonna go ahead and break the coffees that I poured. I got a little sidetrack there. Is there anything that you can tell us, Daniela, about the Mamani family farm?
Yes, Mamani family has been working with us, with AgriCafe, more than 20 years. Now they are part of the program So de la Mañana. It's the name of the producers are Mauricio, Rene, and Juan. They have their farms in the colony of Uchumachi. That is 1.5 hours from our wet mill in Caranavi. The altitude of the farms is between 1,550 to 1,650.
Okay.
The main varieties that they have are Caturra and Catuai.
Yep. Now,
They are
do you process their cherry, or is that done at the farm level?
we are processing the cherries.
Okay, so they deliver cherry to the Buena Vista mill. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's new. They always have been processing their cherries because their farms are far away. But last year they started delivering the cherry to us. So every every night they have to drive around 3 hours back.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
Delivery the cherries.
So in that case, can you maybe just give a real quick explanation of the anaerobic fermentation process, which this coffee is, and I've given my explanation to some customers and employees, but obviously hearing it from you, the person that's actually doing this, and we can see if I'm right or if I need to go back and correct everyone that I've told.
I'll be grading.
Yeah, since the pandemic, we changed our wet meat completely. We have now we are working with special tanks for doing the fermentation. These tanks are stainless steel tanks and also PVC, but they are closed. So what we want to do is to have controlled fermentations. So 100 of the coffee that is fermented at our wet mill is anaerobic. That means without oxygen, and if the coffee is washed, it can be fermented with water or without water, but both are anaerobic. So we control in the fermentation the temperature inside of the tanks, the pH, and that guarantees us that it's only the beans that are doing the fermentation without any microorganisms that are from outside. It's just the mucilagus, the beans, without oxygen. So that is anaerobic for us.
Okay, and these are they tile? I'm just trying to think of the improvements that I've seen that you guys have made to the mills. These fermentation tanks, what type of material are they now? Is
material?
It concrete? Yeah, is it concrete? Is it tiled? Are they barrels, or what's the vessel?
It's so you can imagine they are very similar to the wine industry or the beers that they use. Stainless steel, the big ones, round.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So our goal or our idea as a family is to transform our wet mill and to look like a bodega, like a brewery.
Yep.
Very, very clean, controlled fermentations, very efficient.
So it's stainless steel then is what you're doing this in.
Stainless steels, and also the PVC also we have sometimes.
Okay, wonderful. I can't wait to see this again. I think you were starting on some of this the last time that I was in the mill.
Yeah, we had some small ones.
Yep.
So this with the fermentations, we've been working since 6 years ago. And now, since last year, we decided, okay, let's ferment 100% of
Oh wow!
the coffee.
So this is going to be
100%
every
fermentation.
coffee. Great.
Daniela, why does this make sense for you to make that transition? What are you gaining from that change?
One, cleanness, transparency, and also treat the coffee as a fruit with all the cleanness as possible. For example, if the piles where you ferment are open during the fermentation, they can be dust, some animals that are with the fermentation of the coffee. So those microorganisms affecting the fermentation of the coffee. So what we want to do is to have a more controlled, clean space for the fermentation.
Great.
Excellent.
And what you mentioned being able to control the temperature as well. And so typically time frame, how long is the ideal, in your opinion, time frame for that coffee to be in that fermentation environment?
There is not a recipe. Depends on the variety. If you're gonna ferment it with wash or dry. Depends also on the weather.
Sure.
But depends on also what we want to develop, or what we want to have in the coffee that we are fermented. So for example, if we want to have more body or maybe more fruits, we can ferment it longer. And also depends on the capacity that we have at the mill.
So
there's that, yes.
I'm going to stand in for a lot of folks who might be hearing these terms and wondering, when you talk about fermentation, can you explain what fermentation means? Maybe sometimes people might hear that term and have a very different idea of what fermentation means. What does it mean for coffee, and what does it mean in light of the change you're making?
So in the fermentations, all the sugars that have the beans are started to react with the water, with the temperature, if you have oxygen or not. And all those sugars start to ferment. And that you need to develop some flavors. But it's not that, for example, if you have bad cherry, you have green, or if you do a very low fermentation or very exotic, that will cover. So for coffee, it's important the terroir, the genetic, the altitude, the picking, that just pick the quality of the cherries that you are gonna ferment, washed or natural. And if the 4 things are correct, and you do a control if you do a controlled fermentation, all the flavors that are from the terroir and the genetic will develop in the fermentations.
And so we have
and then have the flavors.
We have a question that came in from online, and so this fermentation, does it involve the addition of any forms of yeast other than those naturally occurring in the fruit?
No.
Yeah.
In our case, as Agricafe and Los Rodriguez families, we are not adding any yeast. because we believe that we have a good terroir, a good varieties, and the flavors comes from the terroir and the genetics. So you don't need to add anything external to cover the flavors or to give more flavors, because Bolivia has flavors. The beans have the flavors. So
That's a good line.
Yeah.
we want to express what the origin is, Bolivia, the terroir, the varieties. And if we do a very controlled fermentation and clean, all the flavors of the terroir and the genetic will be expressed in the cup.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks. That answers that question, I think, and it's a great. You said it very, very poetically. You want people to experience Bolivia through the coffee. So
Yeah, and I think that is very important now in the coffee industry, because sometimes with the process, people are looking for very intense flavors, and that can give the fermentation, but it's not pure of the variety or of the origin. You only are tasting process instead of the terroir and the variety. So what we want to do is not, when you are not tasting, it's like, oh, the fermentation was long or it's too intense. We want that our coffee develop many flavors, complexity, and when you are drinking, you can feel many, many flavors and transparency.
Yeah. Yes, Danielle, I agree 100%. We often talk about roast profiles in the same context, how you can cover mass flavors of terroir with dark roasts, or even with really, really light roasts as well. So as a roasting company, one of the things that we talk about is, okay, how do you accentuate or highlight what these coffees naturally have to offer, and whether it's the variety, the terroir, where the coffee comes from, and try not to really show off process, right? And I think you said that eloquently, as Josh said. So, okay, so one of the things we do when we do the shows, we actually taste the coffee and discuss. So specifically with this coffee, I'm not sure what people are seeing on the screen right now, but we have our flavor descriptors were plum, nougat, and marzipan. And I think historically, with our coffees that we've purchased from you, candy bar is a description that always seems to come up. People get a lot of those nougat, caramel, sweet, different types of chocolate, layered in there with some fruit qualities as well. And this year, I think one of the things I noticed with this coffee was, and perhaps this is the anaerobic fermentation aspect of it, it does seem to have a little bit more of that fruitier acidity on up front when you first taste that coffee. Could be the different terrain at the Mamani family versus coffees from closer to Katanabi. It could be perhaps the variety is Capura, but that's how we didn't describe it in this coffee, and it's always nice when we actually tasted it. As I tell all our customers, we're not just making this stuff up, right? I mean, these are things that we experience when we taste the coffee, and it's always reassuring to hear some of these same descriptors from our producing partners as well. So you can stick around if you want. Maybe this is an opportunity to just. We'll probably get more people view this after the fact. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the side of this. Maybe you too, Josh. Maybe you can go as well.
Yeah, gosh.
It is the busy time of year down there, and we value your time, and thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Jos, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to share what we're doing and to also hear the flavors that now you're tasting in the coffee.
Do you know what a marzipan is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I know that's one that sometimes people are like, oh, what? Yeah. Sweet almonds, yeah, kind of that sugary, nutty quality. So, by all means, say hello to Pedro and Pedro Pablo. Are they all at the mill as well with you right now?
Pedro is here with me in Caranavi, and Pedro Pablo is in Samaipata.
Okay. Yeah, that's his. Well, I won't say his baby over there, but he runs the Santa Cruz operations. I know that. So. All right. Well, thank you. And like I said, you can hang out while we taste these, or not.
I was going to try and see if I could show you the table. See if it works here. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to see if this is turn this virtual camera on. I don't know if I can.
No, I don't.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Josh,
Let's see.
it's okay. It's okay.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna taste this coffee now and see if the candy bar comes through. Do you have any last words you'd like to share with the folks who are enjoying your coffee here in Bolivia and in the rest of the country? Any last words, Danielle?
Sorry. No, enjoy Bolivian coffees, and hopefully you will see soon in Mirador the new harvest and taste what we are processing, and this new amazing coffee that we will have this harvest 2022.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much, and hopefully our paths will cross in a non-virtual environment here shortly.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Okay, bye.
All right, we're still going here
Yeah,
with
we are.
ours, right? Okay, so as I said, the plum, the nice balanced acidity plum up front, just followed by that sweet, nudity. Pick your candy bar. Three Musketeers.
Just for a second, I'm going to blow your mind. Butterfinger, maybe.
Butterfinger. Okay.
There's no Brazil.
Anyway, so good times as always.
Yeah, tasty. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll shut this off so it's not confusing everybody. Too many screens to look at. As always, a pleasure to have you join us. We look forward to sharing this coffee with you in our cafes or in this virtual space when we get another opportunity. And we do look forward to learning more about this anaerobic processing as our friends in Bolivia change over their entire
and this
line.
has been, I mean, not to not allow you to end this broadcast, right? But it's been a trend in coffee for some time now. We experimented with a lot of drying processes after coffee had been fermented, whether it's raised beds, solar dryers, different types of systems that you can kind of control things better. So it made sense to, let's look at fermentation and how can we control or try and control that process as well. So the question was asked about adding different yeasts. People have done that. I've seen people add different types of fruit to the
Wow.
cherry or to the coffee
We
as
had
it's fermenting.
added,
So
a Burundian coffee that added orange
peel.
Orange peel.
Yeah. So I mean, this is how we learn, right? This is how we learn things, and by experimentation, and trying to get some repeatability. So you know, keep pushing the envelope and keep doing it, and use your watch and learn 10 because emphasis on the learning part of that. We'll just keep
at it.
keep doing it,
And
do what we do.
The question I didn't want to put her on the spot with was, what do we need to do? You know, is there a way to